Hi everyone. Before we start today's episode, I did want to give a content warning for any who may be sensitive to the topics we discuss today. Due to the nature of this episode, covering diet topics, there are mentions of various eating disorders. If this is a topic you'd rather not be a part of, that's completely understandable. Either way, thank you for listening, enjoy the show, and I'll catch you next time on Food with Benefits. Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Food with Benefits. I'm your host, Austin, and I'm joined by my dear friend and honestly a grade A baddie, Violet. Now, Violet is not only a great dancer, my gateway to all things K-pop, and incredibly beautiful, by the way, with a great piercing right now. She's also the new owner of that piercing, and honestly, I'm kind of jealous about it. It's like the piercing that's like right on the bridge of the nose. I'm just covered in tattoos, but I don't have any piercings, so I'm just really jealous of this.
Honestly, I want more tattoos, so, we're even, because I love your star tattoo, so.
Thank you. I have, for people who haven't seen yet, I have like 10, I think I have 10 or 11 tattoos right now, and I have like a star tarot card tattoo on my arm, and I have a hot pink frosted donut with rainbow sprinkles on my thigh. That one hurt really bad.
I'm sure, it's supposed to be really painful to get it on the thigh.
Yeah, it hurt pretty bad, but I'm happy with it, because it healed really well.
Yeah.
So when I said she's my gateway to all things K-pop, I quite literally mean it. I was talking to her about this podcast here, and I'm sure I got annoying pretty early on with it because I just constantly talked about it. But my boyfriend threatened you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was like, if you don't come on this podcast, and I'm taking away your what's it called? Your T-Mobile account. And I was like, okay.
Oh.
I was like, damn, all right.
He works at T-Mobile, so he always threatens people with I'm going to deactivate your service if you don't do this. So, but he's at work right now, so we can talk shit about him if you want to.
Yeah.
So, in being completely, in her fear-struck state, she did agree to be on here, and she actually had a really incredible idea that she wanted that she mentioned to me when we were working together, and I never thought about it, so I really wanted to kind of dive deep into it. And she mentioned K-pop diet culture. Now, full disclosure here, I was up till 5 a.m. last night, researching this and going to Wikipedia black holes about all of this. And some of these are incredibly insane. But we are not dieting today. Today, I put together a nice charcuterie board, as my boyfriend calls it.
The charcuterie board. Spare coochie.
So I have her crammed in my 600 square foot apartment balcony. So if you hear a car or a police siren in the background, that is why. But thank you for stopping by and kind of letting me pick your brain about this. And if any of you hear any sort of snapping, this is also going to be podcast, part mukbang, part ASMR. So just enjoy it while you can, or skip it. I don't care. So to get started, what is the K-pop diet? Because it's very different from how Americans would view a diet, really. It's a lot more restrictive, wouldn't you say?
So instead of going, it can go towards just eating healthier, and I'm sure most people in Korea do view it that way, but the way that it's viewed in by idol standards, it's mostly cutting down what you're eating and trying to get into a calorie deficit and just trying to lose as much weight as possible, and trying not to exercise so that you don't get too bulky, and just being the thin and small kind of womanly feminine figure, I guess.
Yeah, kind of an exaggeration of typical what I would consider Asian beauty standards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very pale, very thin.
Yeah.
Kind of that very honestly, I don't even know what's in right now. If it's like the circular face or the more like angular face.
Yeah, it's always been like, I don't know if it is so much now. It's not. So, I feel like there's been people are being more. Certain features are being more accepted now in Korea. So like, while it used to be like you can only have double eyelids are the standard, most people are like, no, actually I prefer monolids, or like, I think they are getting better about it, but it's, it's basically just what you would think, like the V-line jaw and like the double big eyes, and the bridge of the nose is like up, just stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, because I could see, the progress they've made, especially with like the early 2000s Asian beauty standards compared to now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely an evolution and it's changed. It's probably just interesting to view as an outsider's perspective compared to like how quickly American beauty standards have changed.
That's true.
But it might be, because we have a lot more of like I don't know, maybe that's part of like K-pop's current like popularity, because a lot of American beauty standards were very celebrity focused, celebrities look like this now, so now that's the standard of beauty. But since K-pop has been so recent of a worldwide phenomenon, the beauty standards are kind of just now beginning to kind of do that transition into being a bit more accepting. Like when I was researching these, one of the crazy ones that I found was Lee Ji-eun, or IU. She was talking about her diet that she had, and she literally had 1 apple for breakfast, a sweet potato for lunch, and a protein shake for dinner.
Yeah, and she talked about that, like, this is actually her diet, because she did talk about it on a variety show. And she talked about how she'd do it right before a new comeback, so that she'd be as thin as possible for her comeback and on her stages. And IU is definitely a big standard in K-pop, because she's, especially for Koreans, she's known as, like, Korea's little sister. So she has this, like, ideal of being this really feminine and beautiful, and, like, just a lot of people in Korea really loved her. And so what she sets as an example is important. And she's gone through crazy yo-yo dieting. So she'll be at a normal weight for a little while, and then she will be super skinny, and then she'll gain it back, and then recently she's just been like super skinny, and that's it. And it's been like kind of concerning for some people. But yeah, her whole thing, I mean, I even see people on YouTube doing like the diets. They'll be like, oh, doing the IU diet, and they actually do it for weeks on end, and they'll be like, oh, I actually saw results. But it's like, how long will you see those results? You know?
Once you stop and you go back to eating your normal food, it's not gonna stay consistent.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what IU has also, she proved that by her constant weight changing. So
And I mean, I was looking into like some of the more relaxed K-pop diets too, like the ones that could be a bit more of a lifestyle change, like how a lot of people view diets. And even those focus on, I mean, what I would consider from American cuisine standpoint, still very, very, very basic.
Yeah.
Like just bowls of rice, steamed veggies, kimchi, and tofu.
Yeah. I think one of the diets that people look up to, kind of, and I say that in air quotes because it shouldn't really be looked up to, because it's still not healthy. But one of the more lenient diets is that Girls' Generation could have, I think it was for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they had a little cup, and they could fill half of it with rice, and then the other half with steamed veggies and protein, and they could have like kimchi or whatever, which, that's like it's a good diet, but it's like, are you getting your calorie intake in? Probably not. It's still kind of like, it's still not enough.
I mean, even to me, from like my viewpoint, I love food. I'm a 230-pound man. I love food. But just seeing like diets become so restricted in that manner, where you always have to have a staple of like, oh, you must always have kimchi in here, because kimchi has various health benefits to you, so it's a great diet food to begin with. But then like you have to have tofu, no meat, have to have rice with it. It just feels very restrictive of what you can eat, which, I mean, I wouldn't view as sustainable, just because, I don't want to eat the same thing all the time. That's why I don't meal prep. I hate meal prepping. Like, if I make, like, something to eat for the week, and I eat it Monday, okay. I eat it Tuesday, whatever. By Wednesday, I just throw it out. I'm just like, I'm not going to eat this again. Not 5 days in a row.
Yeah, it takes a lot to to be that way, I think.
Mhm.
And I think it's admirable, but it's also really damaging. And it's really damaging to the fans, too.
Yeah,
So.
especially because a lot of K-pop stars, when they're going through their training or whatever, like the formal word is it there,
Yeah.
it's such a, like, they're so young. For
Oh,
years
yeah.
they're having to go through this.
And I think it's the worst then, because when you become an idol, you're more in the public eye. So a lot of stuff you can't get away with your company. You know, if someone were to slip up and say something.
I
But
mean, even when
training,
they're restricting like who you can date, who you can hang out
Oh,
with,
yeah.
like it
it's
boggles
like
my mind.
it's an extremely restrictive lifestyle, like not even just food wise, but just everything. And a lot of people make up the excuse of, well, they know what they're signing into when they sign the contracts. But it's like, why should somebody have to do that if their passion is just making music and wanting to dance?
Yeah.
I don't see why people think that, well, it's fine because this is what is expected. I don't know why we can't change that.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's really I'm going to keep saying it, but it really does boggle my mind how they'll take these 14, 15-year-olds who want to sing and want to dance, sign them into these contracts with these companies like this, like Kakao or whatever the other ones would be.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, hey, you're basically ours now.
Oh,
You're gonna do
yeah.
what we want you to do. You can't have a car. Your money is not your money. Like, we'll pay for things for you, but if you're not making the money back in sales, then you have to pay us back. Like, it's
Yeah.
basically just they're forcing you into essentially a bank loan.
No, it's really scary too, because a lot of people, they can't pay back what the company has invested in them. And so they come out of their training, either they haven't debuted or their debut has failed, and that happens a lot with companies that aren't in the big three. The big three
Yeah.
are the most popular. And they come out of it and they have no degree. A lot of them don't even have a high school education sometimes, because they had to put all of their time and their effort into training, and they're working like minimum wage jobs.
Yeah.
And they can't pay back these companies that invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into them, and so they're just in debt forever.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess back onto like the diet side of things here. One of the girl groups that I knew them a little bit, but I never really listened to their music. But they're 9 Muses, and their diet is apparently incredibly popular on like a lot of Korean blog sites, and I saw it all over the internet when I was researching this. But basically, they're just allowed to eat 9 small paper cups a day, kind of like the ones that you get at a hospital, like when they're giving you your pills. So you get like 3 for each of your meals here. But it's like, oh, one has to have rice in it, one can be a side,
Yeah.
and one has to have vegetables. Like, even that seems, I mean, it seems a bit more relaxed
Yeah.
of a diet menu.
But still.
Those cups are so tiny though,
Yeah,
like they're
there's
for a pill.
There's no way that you're going to be able to get all that you need in 9 little paper cups. you
No.
know? And I think the appeal to it is portion control, but it's still not like, it's not enough.
I mean, even with male idols, like you would think they'd be a bit more kind of relaxed with their diets, just because of how much you're having to work out, especially Wonho. I mean, I love that man. But, I mean, just the body that he has with just knowing the diets that these people have to go on
Yeah.
is just, it seems like as soon as he stops that diet or stops working out, that man's just going to be a pencil.
Oh, for sure. Because even if a K-pop idol has some sort of reputation to uphold, whether it be like, oh, you're like the cute little youngest of the group, they'll be like, yeah, you can't work out, you can't bulk up, because that's not what your reputation is.
Yeah, that's not going to be like, that's not your shtick.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like with Wonho, it's like if he, like, I mean, he's the bodybuilder of his group, and so it's like, oh, if you lose any weight or you lose any muscle mass, then you're not really you anymore.
Yeah, people don't see you as like that anymore of what you got big for, you know. So
yeah, I know one of the guy group, Great Guys, one of their idols, Ho Ryung, he was talking about with his gym and training routines that they had to go through. They literally didn't have time to eat, and if they didn't get to decide what to eat. Their management company did it for them.
yeah.
So they were pretty much just like fed in a cafeteria, essentially.
Yeah, that's a reality, I think, for a lot of K-pop idols, because they do work terrible. Like I think Jungkook from BTS said that he, probably all of the members as well, they'd get up really early in the morning, like 5 a.m., and train until like 2 a.m. in the morning. And then, so they were running on no sleep, basically no food. It's a really, it's a crazy
grueling.
lifestyle. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a grueling process to have to go through. And I mean, I don't understand that process, but I'm also, I mean, I'm not Korean. I didn't grow up with Korean culture with, you
Yeah.
know, the big three management companies and just
Yeah.
K-pop kind of being the phenomenon that it is nowadays. I mean, I can see how it's, you know, yes, you're putting the work in, but if you can succeed with it, you were quite literally set for life.
Yeah, that's true. And I think Koreans, in some sense, they romanticize hard work. You know, they romanticize putting everything on the line for what you want, because you know, what they think is, you know, the more you put into something, the more you'll get out of it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people who were Korean, you know, second generation Korean Americans and people like that. And I mean, I could definitely see that. When I was working with them, they were quite literally I'm up at 7, I'm working, I have my day broken down in 5-minute increments of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to work until 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go to the gym. And then I'm going to go eat. And then it's just, you know, it's an incredibly restrictive lifestyle, even, you know, for people who are not idols. You know, just, it seems like it's a societal thing of hard work and food and eating.
Oh, for sure it is.
Yeah, which is crazy for me because when I was eating with the Korean family that I used to work for, I mean, their mom would essentially make food for all of us, so I got to really enjoy their food and a lot of, you know, very historical, I guess historic and traditional Korean cuisine. And it's I mean, it's a lot of food. Like, they don't stop feeding you until, I mean, you literally have to get rude to say, like,
Yeah.
please, no more food. I mean, and that's just, it's crazy to me that how Korean food culture is that giving due to, you know, their recent rapid development into, you know, the superpower of a country they are today, and their, you know, history with food scarcity due to the location and, you know, environment. And then you get these idols and you completely just do away with that entire culture of Korean cuisine.
Yeah, I think it says a lot to, you know, not all Koreans are like that. You know, there are Koreans who are definitely healthy and that they eat right, and, you know, like, this isn't to say K-pop is all of Korea, and because it's definitely not. So I think that says a lot towards it. I think it's just the diet culture in general, and they call it that because diet is so prominent in the culture that they call it, you know, diet culture. So, you know, I mean, it's crazy, but
do you think it's kind of due to the, I guess, like, since the recent interaction with a lot more of, you know, our Western culture and our obsession with diet, you know, because, I mean, again, not to speak on behalf of Koreans or, you know, their culture, it seems like it's a lot of a love for Western culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is misconception of Westerners having kind of like superiority complexes, but
Yeah.
but
I mean, when do we not?
Yeah, true. But we do influence the world in certain ways, and I think that our culture with that, especially in the 2000s, and how the people in the 2000s were treated by their management.
I mean, just look at Britney Spears to begin with. I mean,
exactly.
She's kind of, you know, kind of like a Western analog to a lot of the K-pop idol. Sounds so rude to say a pipeline, but pretty much like training. Then you go into your stardom, and then you kind of just go from there. You know, that's kind of how she was treated here. 15, 16, kind of just thrown into the music scene, and then, you know, put into a red cat scoot to go sing "Hit Me Baby One More Time."
Yeah, I forgot about this, but I think K-pop actually was started because Koreans loved boy groups and music from the U.S. So I think someone who was prominent in the music industry was like, why don't we do this? So I think that's how it was started. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. So, you know, it might have a lot more influence than I am thinking, because it is, I mean, there's a lot of things that are similar to how we work in our music industry, and we've gotten a lot more lenient. Like, there's a lot more inclusivity now, but you know, in the 2000s, in the 90s,
I mean, it makes sense because, I mean, if we go through that viewpoint of, you know, K-pop kind of being a response to early 2000s American pop culture,
Yeah.
then it makes sense to think of how restrictive we were back then, you know, back when, management companies were controlling your finances.
Yeah.
You weren't able to go wherever you wanted. It's been very, there was no social media.
No.
The only way you would ever be able to communicate with people was either through the music you released, which was approved by your label, or through publicity statements.
Yeah.
But now with the invention of social media and celebrities being able to connect and communicate without their label getting in front of them, it kind of makes sense how current K-pop culture is reflective of that early 2000s culture, where it is
definitely.
a bit more big brothery, I guess. Not to be rude with it.
For sure. I think it's the truth. It kind of is, because there's a lot of messy stuff in the K-pop industry. I mean, even the biggest groups like Girls' Generation, there's been a member who came out with came out with a book, and she was one of the Asian American members. I think it was Jessica. She was actually kicked out of the group, and she kind of just spilled. Like, she was
spilled
like,
all the tea.
Yeah, she was like, this is how it is, and it was bad. Like, it was ugly, and it was terrible stuff that had happened to her. And I think a lot of, I think it is us, but it's also the nature of what Koreans, what they uphold, and so
the work ethic that they want to put into it, when it's, because I doubt, to us it seems so foreign, but I'm sure to them, and a lot of the Koreans who maybe aren't so international like the idols are, like people who were born and raised in Korea, native Koreans, that's just the culture. Like, you work hard, you want to be an idol and you want to be set for life. Yes, you'll be training till you're 15 and you'll be going through this and that, and that's part of the deal.
And it's really sad, but it
Yeah.
And I think things need to change, but it'll be a gradual change. We got to work up to that point, even if it's sad.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of get into the next point that we'll discuss here with, because we've kind of just been talking about the negative effects of the K-pop diet. We kind of just been, like hounding on it. But, to kind of make it a bit more lighthearted, I guess. Because a diet, you can't just do a crash diet like what these really are. We would consider these a crash diet.
Yeah.
That's just what gets you into yo-yoing. You're 110 pounds, but then as soon as you stop the diet, you just balloon back up, 10 pounds in a week.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how things work with that. A diet has to be a gradual change to your eating habits over time. That way you can maintain that diet over the long run. A diet will change depending on, are you looking to, trim fat? Are you looking to lose a little bit of weight? Are you wanting to gain a little bit more muscle? There's different diets to focus on those different things. But a lot of these diets focus on just, I want to lose as much weight as possible. I don't care if it's muscle. I don't care if it's fat. I don't care if it's water weight. Like, I'm just going to eat 3 spoons of rice and just see what happens, And this is definitely, when my research into this, it was definitely bleeding over into a lot of certain internet subcultures, such as the pro-ano community, which is like a pro-anorexia community, I stumbled upon a Reddit thread that mentioned that Twitter users were posting fan cams of their idols, like on the left would be them at their lowest weight, and then on the right would be them at their heaviest weight. Just to, kind of just, I guess, a subtle fat shaming in a way.
I know some Twitter users do it to kind of show you, like, oh, this is the person at their lowest weight, this is horrible, this is them at their new weight, and they look great, but it can also be used in that way to be, like, fat shaming.
It's easy to kind of be co-opted into that. So one of the, most, I guess, the craziest ones that I saw was that Twitter users and people on Discord, they were pretending that they were, in a group chat with the members of Blackpink, and essentially these people pretending to be Blackpink would invite you in, and they would be like, hey, we're gonna go shopping at this store today, do you want to come with us? And you were supposed to say, yeah, I'd love to go with you. And one of them would jump in and be like, oh, well, I don't think you'd fit into their clothes, but you can carry our bags for us though. And I'm just like, what the hell? People go into this this therapy, and perverse version of therapy, I guess.
To kind of make themselves want to be skinnier or give them I feel like fans, once you're exposed to all of this, all these girls who don't go over 115 pounds, it's really hard not to be like, oh, I want to look like that. Like, that's what beautiful is, and I want to look like that.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of scares me the most about it, is because of how young a lot of K-pop fans are.
Yeah.
It's especially here, like in America, a lot of us don't speak Korean. We don't really understand the lyrics that are going on, but the visuals are incredible, the dances are incredible.
Yeah.
It's able to cater to a younger audience who they don't have to relate to whatever the theme of the song is. They just like, ooh, nice song, really pretty, beautiful people, and it caters to a lot of a younger audience as well. Especially like in a lot of people I've saw on the internet, they were saying like, my 12-year-old wants like Botox so she can look like her favorite idol, or my 15-year-old wants to go on a diet. And that's just so young.
That's honestly, because I feel like before I got into K-pop, it was always, and maybe this was because I was younger and now I'm older. I don't know if it's 100% because of that, but I was kind of like, yeah, it's you're either like bigger or you're skinnier. It was never like, what's the size of your waist? What's the size of your butt? What's the size of your boobs? What's the size of your arms? And it's like, as I got older and as I got exposed to more K-pop and more of the kind of stuff that they did on variety shows, it's like, oh, my arms are fat. Oh, my waist is too big, even though my waist is like 25 inches. It's like, it's healthy. I'm healthy. I'm fine.
I'm sorry.
No, it's like, I was like, is this?
We're recording this on our backs, so like everything's just like kind of ringing through.
But yeah, it came from just like, okay, I just need to be healthy, and if I'm healthy, then I'm my best self, and that's fine. To oh man, I wish my stomach was flatter, and I wish my butt was bigger, and I wish like my thighs were this shape, and I wish my arms were this size. It's like pinning like certain things, and I think a lot of people are exposed to that way too young, like I was, and it's really damaging.
It really is. I mean, especially with the younger side of things, yes, you have this, but then as you get older and you start getting more involved in social media.
Yeah. And
Tumblr was really, really bad about this back in the day.
Yeah.
Tumblr had, like I said before, the pro-ano groups, which were communities that were incredibly, incredibly toxic and very, very damaging. There were communities where they would promote, various eating disorders, bulimia, anorexia, and, some were even utilizing purging as some sort of treat to yourself. If you, hit your goal weight. Like, hey, you hit your goal weight, you can eat all of this food, but you have to get rid of it after, through purging. And it's incredibly, incredibly toxic. And I've seen it kind of bleed over into what I would consider a more open social media platform, especially on Reddit. I think this was back in like 2015. There was a subreddit called Fat People Hate.
Oh my god.
And it was literally just people would post photos of obese people, or people not even obese. I mean, I would consider myself overweight.
Yeah.
But even people who were like, oh, they're 5'5" and they weigh 180. And it's just they're like, oh, look at the whale, like, land whale, whatever. It was incredibly, incredibly toxic, to the point where Reddit eventually had, like, quarantined the community, which is, if you were a member, you can still interact with it, but if you were not a member, you could not find that community. And then it got to the point where they just banned it in full.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, it was I think because it got, like, picked up by the news networks. Yeah. And so Reddit was like, oh, we actually need to do something about this then.
Yeah, that's just bullshit, but, whatever.
Yeah. It's incredibly damaging for stuff like this to happen, because because American culture has already had so many issues and a history with stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I had thought we kind of moved past it, because I haven't seen anything that was, like, very pro-ano, anything, who was kind of in that sort of wheelhouse on side of things, until K-pop kind of picked back up.
Yeah.
And got real popular, and it's kind of like a regression into America's old eating habits and this relationship with food that's very negative and very, harmful, in the sense of, oh, food will harm me in any sort of capacity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm ranting at this point.
No, I mean, like, it's... And I'm sure those kinds of communities are still on Reddit. Like, I'm sure
I'm sure they are.
shit like that's still on there. I don't know if I'm allowed to guess. Am I allowed to guess?
They're just kind of like hiding. They're just hiding more now.
Yeah.
You know, they're not so open like, fat people hate. Now it's just like, you know, like beach land whales or some shit. You know, they're kind of hiding it under some new name.
And I think it's really ridiculous that Reddit doesn't cleanse that stuff, because they have a lot of terrible stuff on Reddit.
They do. I mean, I've been on Reddit for years, and I'm just like, you just scroll through and then you find some incredibly interesting stuff that pops up on your front page.
Yeah. It's a lot, and I wish that they would. But yeah, back to the dieting thing. I'm sure people still do that stuff, and you know, fat shaming it happens every day, you know, and it's really upsetting. It kind of feels like, you know, no matter what you do, you're not good enough, and I'm sure that's how K-pop idols feel too.
No, especially with the, you know, I doubt any sort of K-pop idol has an image published that is not touched up.
Oh, for sure.
Even with this incredibly restrictive diet, the images that you see of them are not the real photos that were taken.
No,
they never were.
Yeah,
they never are.
They minimize. I even had, I saw an article where a girl was, I'm pretty sure she was diagnosed with anorexia later on, but before she was diagnosed, she was so thin that the people who would touch up their photos, actually had to make her bigger.
Oh.
So that is interesting. I think it's just interesting how, like, it's a very specific code, you know, of what you're supposed to look like in the K-pop industry. It's like, you need to be thin, but not too thin, because if you're too thin, then you look sickly. But it's like, you know, aren't they all kind of...
They're kind of already
sick?
In that sickly point,
exactly,
you know, with the weight that, you know, they're kind of being forced to have to go into.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
It's definitely I don't know. It's hard to form an opinion on it, really. I mean, because, one, it's not my culture. I can't be able to
very true.
Judge that culture in any one point. I can only view it as an outsider who, you know, has a different set of beliefs and viewpoints and understanding of something like that.
Yeah.
But looking at it, how American culture has taken those lessons, a Pinterest board that I found. It was some user, I'm not going to say who it is or anything like that, but they had a board that was just called K-pop diets. And one of them had an image that I had seen already on a lot of Thinspiration, whatever, boards on Tumblr. And it was like, here's what to eat, you know, during a day to be skinny. And it's, you know, an egg for breakfast, 100 grams of brown rice for lunch, and then dinner was a salad. And you have to drink 3 bottles of water.
Yeah.
You know, but it kind of goes into that damaging territory even more when it said your calorie intake should be 306 calories a day.
Yeah.
You know, just, well, I'm terrible at math. A very, very small amount compared to what you should be eating every day.
Yeah.
You know, very, very tiny.
Especially with their schedules and how they train.
Yeah, with the work that they're having to put into.
Yeah, they need more than that.
Yeah, I mean, especially because I can't remember what the group was, but they had they said that when they would have to go through training, they were wearing like 8-pound or 10-pound weights on their legs when they were doing their training and dancing. That way, when, you know, they were actually on stage, their movements were light, as their choreographer would say it. But
yeah, and I mean, that is something that it's a good way to do that, but it's also like their lifestyle. It's damaging for them because they don't eat enough, and so now they're working out with these 10-pound weights. They're losing a bunch of calories that they haven't given themselves. They're not nourishing themselves. So like, while it's a good way to train, it's not healthy for them because they're not eating enough. They don't have the diet to sustain that sort of exercise they're putting into this if they're training for 12 hours, 14 hours a day with an extra 10 pounds added onto their weight. You know, but they're only eating, you know, just 300 calories a day. One of the other images on that Pinterest board was of Korean actress, I believe she was a Korean actress, Park Shin-hee, and her diet was what completely blew my mind. Like, her diet that she had. She had a cucumber for breakfast with a glass of milk. Her lunch was a bowl of rice and cabbage, and her dinner was just another cucumber with cabbage that time. This one didn't say what the calories were, but your day is literally 2 cucumbers, milk, and cabbage. Yeah, there's no way.
There's no way. I mean, when a cucumber's like what, 95% water.
Yeah, it's. I'm pretty sure it's one of those foods that, like, when you eat it, you actually lose calories. You know what I'm
Yeah, it's the
talking
ones
about?
where it's like, oh, you're just eating to keep yourself busy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you feel like you're eating.
Yeah.
Um, and then another one, and this was a singer that I have heard of before. You know, my limited K-pop interactions. But Soyu, with her diet being, you know, a sweet potato for breakfast, 3 boiled eggs and a slice of bread for lunch, and 3 slices of kimbap for dinner.
Yeah.
You know, I've had kimbap. I can't just eat 3 slices.
Oh,
Hell.
absolutely not.
No.
I'm eating like 2 servings of kimbap.
No, there's this restaurant here. Complete tangent, but there's a restaurant here in Sewanee here near Atlanta called Poetry, like Poetree. They have kimbap and it's so good. I'm telling you, it's so good. It's incredible. But I mean, I couldn't just do 3 slices. I mean, you order kimbap at a restaurant, and they give you like, you know, what, 10 slices in a roll or
Yeah,
something.
usually, I think.
So I mean, it's a we've definitely taken our time to talk about these the diets and, you know,
Yeah.
the various ones that do show up. But we need to look through and see, like, what can we do about these sorts of diets. You know, yes, it's incredibly difficult to change a relationship with food that has been made on a cultural level, such as, you know, a K-pop culture, their diet culture. Literally, they call it a diet culture, like Violet said earlier. But it requires a shift in thought through the whole population.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to America's shifting acceptance of smoking.
Yeah.
You know, back in the 70s and 80s, it was like, yeah, smoke, whatever, it's okay. Smoke in a restaurant. But now it's like, if you're seen smoking even in public or like on your balcony, you're still kind of given weird looks.
True. Yeah.
But I mean, it's I mean, do you have anything to add in with, I guess, like, what we could do to kind of change it? I mean, because you know a lot more about Korean culture, I guess, in that manner with diets.
I think first it'd be important to take off the aspect of, you know, measuring idols' waists and wanting to know how much they weigh and stuff in variety shows. I think that would be important. Not pinning people up against each other and making them compete, because that's really toxic. Just general, you know, toxic behaviors that are seen throughout the K-pop industry. I think they need to change. It needs to stop being romanticized and be more like, you know, is this okay? You know, and I think it is getting better, and they're slowly starting to do this, and that's great. Same with America. You know, we're like slowly being like, wait a second, you know.
Yeah, we're like, hold up.
Yeah, like perhaps this is not what we should do.
No.
And you know, I think in its own time, things will get better. But you know, it's baby steps. You're not going to change a whole country in
No, I mean, it's not going to
couple
happen.
years, or,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
not going to happen anytime quickly. I mean, look at how, you know, it took, we're 2021 now.
Yes.
2021 now. And, you know, even when you compare 21 years of growth, and especially with how insane it has been with the growth of the internet, mainly, and social media, from 2020 to those beliefs of beauty to current beliefs of beauty,
Yeah.
you know, it's different, but it's more or less the same. It's still
for sure.
unattainable.
It's, yeah. I mean, even now, like when I go on Instagram or when I go on TikTok, even when girls are like posting videos of themselves dancing, there'll be like comments of people who will post like the door emoji because
Yeah.
they're not like an hourglass, and they'll be made fun of because they're too skinny, or they'll be made fun of because they're too big, or for whatever reason. Like, we do have the body standard that we do have is, you know, when you look at it, it looks more healthy than how it used to be, but our actions are still the same. We're still making fun of people who don't look that way. We're still trying to attain something that's not attainable, etc. You know?
But the thing was with, you know, diet culture, kind of wanting to get away from, you know, the more damaging aspects of it, it's not impossible to do it, even though it is incredibly difficult on a cultural side of things. Really, it's just, you know, shifting your focus away from the fetishization of thinness is a great starting point to have here. And that's kind of what I think largely helped America kind of grow out of that thinness phase that we had in the early 2000s. You know, to something that's a bit more accepting nowadays for the everyday person, in air quotes. You know, even though a lot of social media and, you know, celebrities nowadays still are very damaging with their diets and, you know, the beauty standards that they put out through social media. So, being there for friends and family who may be struggling with an eating disorder, especially those who are younger and are definitely more impressionable to this sort of damaging viewpoint and content being put out, was really what we need to focus on here. As well as talking with a dietitian before starting any sort of diet is paramount. Every person is different and would need different things. If you have high cholesterol, heart complications, anemia, take certain medications, honestly, a plethora of other things can all interact negatively with this sort of sudden diet change. And definitely don't focus on a sudden diet change. Like I said earlier, it is a gradual changing of your daily habits that leads to a long-term change in your diet here.
Yeah, I think a lot of dieting, just listen to your body and just make sure you're getting the amount of calories that you think you need, or at least enough.
Yeah,
it all has to do with your body type, and there's no really like one fits all diet.
No, everyone is different with it, and I think too. It's if you are happy with yourself and where you are at now. If you are heavier set like I am, but you're happy, then don't go on a diet. Why would you want a diet? You don't need it.
Exactly.
It's all about being happy in your current state. Can you do what you want to do?
Yeah, because it's really no one else's business.
No, it's not.
Like who you are and what you eat, and it's no one else's business. It doesn't affect them, so don't let anyone tell you that.
Yeah, I don't own a scale in my house. I don't have a scale. I'm just like, I don't need it.
Should.
No. I will say, though, I feel like I need to give a disclaimer to everyone here. If you or a loved one is struggling with an eating disorder, please contact a professional or a helpline. The National Eating Disorders Hotline is an incredible contact to have. You can chat online, you can call, you can even text them. They'll offer you support, resources, and treatment options. You can call or text them at 800-931-2237, or you can visit their website and chat online at nationaleatingdisorders.org. If you are in a crisis, they do have a crisis line you can contact. Just text NEDA to 741-741. But other than that, thank you, Violet, for being here.
Yes.
And eating through my charcuterie board, my charcuterie board, as Roy would say. He just wants me to put that in here.
Oh my god.
So, thank you for letting me drag you here to my house
Of course.
with a nice weather on a Saturday, thankfully.
Yes.
I hope this episode kind of helped everyone understand how diets can absolutely skew our relationship with food in a way that disconnects us from reality, really. And I hope it helped open your eyes to some of the damaging dietary practices that are so prevalent in the entertainment industry and world at large today as well. If you'd like to stay in touch, you can follow me on Instagram at AustinEatsATL, and you can also find me online at AustinEatsATL.com. And where can people find you, Violet?
You can find me on Instagram at Violet.Padilla, Padilla. That's my main on Instagram. So I'm not really on any other social media. So.
I honestly don't do anything either. I'm on Instagram, but then I'm like stealthing through TikTok right now.
Yeah, same.
Where I'm just like, I'm here, but it's a dummy name.
Exactly.
It's like
I do not
user
post.
27833.
I'm here for a good time, but not to post.
Yeah, but thanks again everyone for checking in. I will see you next time on Food with Benefits. In the meantime, stay safe and stay curious, and enjoy this closing ASMR as we fade to black.